It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Caitlin Clark, face of franchise rookie phenom, the name that sold out arenas, was benched. For the 7th straight game, she sat in warm-ups, cheering from the sidelines. And yet, the Indiana Fever didn't collapse. They didn't stall. They caught fire. What unfolded in Seattle wasn't just another win. It was a resurrection. The Fever weren't just surviving without their superstar. They were thriving. And now, for the first time in a decade, they won 5 straight games and clawed their way to 5th place in the standings, within breathing distance of second. This wasn't luck. This was a team rewriting its destiny, one game at a time. The WNBA hasn't seen a storm like this in years. Ironic, considering they just tore through the Seattle Storm. Without Clark, without mercy. When most teams lose their engine, they stall out. But the Fever, they turned into a freight train. Each win has sharpened them. Each absence of Clark has hardened them. This is no longer just a team carried by one star. This is a war-tested squad that has discovered its other weapons. And when Clark finally returns, she won't be coming back to carry the Fever. She'll be joining a machine already in motion. But in the eye of the storm stood one name, burning brighter than the rest. Sophie Cunningham. In a league where superstars hit the headlines and role players get forgotten, Cunningham ripped up the script and wrote her name in neon. She didn't just shoot well, she torched Seattle. While her teammates missed every single three-pointer, Sophie stood tall. 4 for 5 from deep, 17 points. A one-woman inferno against the league's second-best defense. When everyone else faded into the shadows, she stepped into the spotlight and lit the entire arena on fire. Her performance wasn't just electric, it was essential. Every single long-range shot felt like a lifeline, and with each bucket, she dragged her team closer to victory. It was the kind of mental toughness you don't teach. The kind of poise that doesn't flinch under pressure. Natasha Howard said it best. Sophie is a firecracker, and in that building, under those lights, with their season on the line, she exploded. This wasn't about stats. It was about a spark, igniting a team, a fan base, a belief that anything was possible. And while Sophie Cunningham was torching nets, Aaliyah Boston was making history. Quietly, powerfully, steadily. With 16 points and 12 rebounds, Boston claimed her 6th consecutive double-double, breaking Caitlin Clark's franchise record. Let that sink in. In Clark's absence, Boston didn't just fill the void. She redefined it. She became the center of gravity, the rock, the player no one could ignore anymore. All eyes were on who would step up, and Boston didn't just step up, she took over. She didn't need headlines. She didn't chase flash. Boston simply dominated. On both ends of floor, her playmaking, her vision, her defense, she became the anchor that kept the Fever grounded in every single possession. And as critics wondered if she could handle the heat without Clark drawing attention, Boston quietly hit 100 assists, the fastest center in WNBA history to do so. She wasn't just surviving without Caitlin. She was building her own legacy. Coach Stephanie White didn't mince words. She called Boston the rock of the team, the glue, the high IQ phenom who sees the court like a seasoned vet. The transformation was undeniable. From a post-up threat to a playmaking hub, Boston became the bridge between offense and defense. The unshakable present opponents had no answer for. While others focused on who was missing, Boston was busy becoming the future of the franchise. And as Boston shattered records, Natasha Howard was crafting a masterpiece of her own. Her stat line against Seattle, 21 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 10 of 12 shooting. That's not just impressive, that's historic. She joined Tamika Catchings, a Fever legend, as the only players in franchise history to put up those numbers in a single game. And she did it with poise, grace, and command. The kind of performance that makes you sit back and stare. But what made Howard's night even more remarkable wasn't just the numbers. It was the presence. She wasn't just a scorer. She was a conductor, the vocal leader, the one barking out defensive switches, calling plays, rallying the troops when Seattle made its inevitable run. In the clutch, when chaos threatened to unravel the game, Howard was a calm, the one who knew where the ball needed to go, the one who made sure everyone stayed locked in. Veteran leadership is easy to talk about, hard to execute, but Howard showed exactly why experience matters. She didn't force shots. She didn't panic. She made winning plays. When Cunningham needed a screen, she was there. When Boston needed relief in the post, Howard was ready. When Kelsey Mitchell struggled, Howard steadied the ship. It was a kind of all-around performance that championship teams are built on. But perhaps the most unexpected moment of the night came from the player who seemed to be struggling the most, Kelsey Mitchell. Ice cold for most of the game. 3 for 16 from the field. 0 for 8 from 3. It was the kind of night that breaks confidence. But when the game was on the line and Seattle had clawed back within a single point, it wasn't Boston or Cunningham who made the next move. It was Mitchell, with the season hanging in the balance. Mitchell slashed through the lane and delivered a clutch layup that stopped the bleeding and snatched momentum back for Indiana. That basket didn't just earn 2 points. It preserved the winning streak. It crushed Seattle's run. It reminded everyone why Mitchell is still one of the most dangerous guards in the league, even on her worst shooting nights. Because when the lights are brightest, she doesn't hide. She delivers. It's easy to praise a player when they're hot, but greatness shows itself in adversity. Mitchell didn't check out. She kept facilitating, kept defending, racked up 5 assists and 2 steals. She refused to let her struggles define her night. Instead, she became the hero when the Fever needed one most. That's not just skill. That's mental fortitude. That's the heart of a champion. And through it all, on the sidelines, wrapped in a hoodie but blazing with emotion, Caitlin Clark watched. She clapped. She stood. She shouted at the refs when calls were missed. "You were right in front of her," she barked, voice echoing through the arena. She may not have suited up, but Clark was locked in, a fireball of passion and fury. Her absence didn't silence her. It amplified her. That intensity lit a fuse. You could see it in her teammates' eyes. They weren't just playing for standings. They were playing for each other, for their leader who couldn't lace up. And Clark? She wasn't sulking. She was leading, fiercely, loudly, with the same edge that made her a college icon. When she returns, fully healed, fully unleashed, this team won't be desperate for a savior. They'll be waiting for their missing piece. Coach Stephanie White called it a blessing in disguise. Clark's absence forced the Fever to find their identity. No longer relying on one player, they became versatile, unpredictable, dangerous. Cunningham lit up the perimeter. Boston orchestrated the middle. Howard locked down both ends. Mitchell delivered in the clutch. Each player found a new level, and the team found its soul. This isn't just a winning streak. This is a transformation. The Indiana Fever have gone from a one-star show to a 5-headed beast. Every game is a new revelation. Every player a new threat. And the rest of the league? They're on notice. Because when Clark rejoins this group, she won't be leading a rebuild. She'll be joining a revolution. The Fever's bench once looked thin. Now, it looks dangerous. Arie McDonald's speed has become a critical weapon. BBY. Their newly signed stretch 4 is fitting in seamlessly, adding size and spacing that unlocks Boston and Cunningham's best qualities. Every minute on the floor is a statement. Every substitution, a reminder that depth wins titles. This team isn't just hot, they're battle-tested. They've faced adversity. They've responded to pressure. They've won on the road. They've come back from a brink. And with every challenge, they've grown closer, stronger, more unified. What once was a team leaning on Caitlin Clark is now a force that's proving it can stand tall on its own. So when Caitlin Clark finally does return, she's not stepping into chaos. She's stepping into chemistry. This isn't the desperate, one-dimensional team she left 7 games ago. This is a reforged unit that's found rhythm, resilience, and roles. Clark won't need to do it all. She'll simply elevate what's already working. And that is when teams become dangerous. Because when you mix star power with system stability, you don't just get highlight reels, you get titles. Clark will re-enter a system where Boston is quarterbacking from the post, where Cunningham is lighting it up from deep, where Howard is owning both ends of the floor, and Mitchell is proving her mettle in crunch time. Add Clark's elite vision, range, and leadership to that mix, and the Fever don't just become better, they become terrifying. Defenses won't know who to key in on, because for the first time in years, the Indiana Fever have options. They're not looking for a savior. They're unleashing a supernova. Imagine the gravity Clark draws the moment she steps across half court. Now imagine the space that opens up for Cunningham's red-hot three-point stroke, for Boston's surgical passing, for Mitchell's slashing drives, for Howard's interior dominance. Opponents can't double anymore. They can't sag. They can't guess, because every player on the floor now demands attention. And Clark? She'll be free to play her game with a team that's already proven it can win without her. It's the kind of depth contenders dream about, the kind of resilience dynasties are built on. Every great team in history has faced its crucible, and the 7-game stretch was Indiana's. But they didn't just survive. They grew, they bonded, they sharpened each other. And now, they got the league's biggest weapon waiting in the wings, ready to step back into the fire and finish what they've started. But let's not forget what made this fire possible in the first place. Buy-in. Every single player stepped up and sacrificed. McDonald adapted to the point guard role. BBY adjusted to the pace and spacing. The veterans became vocal. The rookies became fearless. And when Seattle threw their best punches, Indiana stood tall and swung right back. That's not talent alone. That's culture. That's belief. And now, the rest of the league better start believing, too. Because the numbers tell one story, but the energy tells another. The Fever didn't just win 5 straight. They earned 5 straight. They executed. They hustled. They stared down double-digit comebacks and never blinked. Every possession screamed urgency. Every timeout huddle echoed with grit. They were loud. They were locked in. They were a unit. That's what makes this streak different. This isn't about one lucky bounce. It's about a team learning how to finish. And make no mistake, finishing is what separates the good teams from the champions. It's what separates highlight reel teams from trophy-hoisting ones. And right now, Indiana is finishing. Seattle's 11-0 run could have broken them. But instead, it became the forge where their confidence was cast. When Mitchell sank that layup, when Boston slammed that dagger rebound, when Cunningham hit that third triple, the crowd didn't just gasp, they understood. This team is here. You could feel the momentum shifting, not just in the game, but in the season. This one wasn't about Seattle. It was about setting the tone. It was about sending a message. We're not waiting for Clark to come back. We're coming with or without her. And when she does return, that message gets underlined, bolded, highlighted in neon, because the Fever are now a fully operational threat with championship ambition. And here's the twist. For years, the Fever were an afterthought, a rebuilding project, a bottom feeder with no clear direction. But now they're the most dangerous team in the league. Not because they have the best player, but because they have a complete team. They built something that no scout can fully predict, and that unpredictability is their superpower. The league's blueprint is outdated. You can't just stop Clark and expect the Fever to fold. That was the old game plan. That script's been burned. You stop Clark now, Boston drops 20. You collapse on Boston, Cunningham bombs from deep. You take away the perimeter, Howard bullies the paint. And Mitchell just waits for her moment and buries you in the fourth. That's what makes Indiana so terrifying. There's no weak link, no obvious target, no one-dimensional dependency. They've diversified their attack, expanded their roles, and now they're equipped for war. And in the playoffs, where every possession is a battle and every mistake is magnified, that versatility becomes a weapon of mass destruction. And don't think for a second that Clark isn't watching all of this unfold with fire in her eyes. You know she's itching to return, not to prove she's a star, but to join the storm. She's not coming back to save the day. She's coming back to make it rain, to be the finisher, the floor spacer, the dagger in a game that's already bleeding. And when she does, the entire WNBA will feel it. But it's not just about X's and O's. It's about narrative, about legacy. What the Fever are building right now, this is how dynasties begin. Not with confetti, not with champagne, but with quiet wins, with gritty road victories, with late-game heroics and underdog energy. And if this core stays intact, if this mindset holds, we might be looking at the team that will define the next decade of women's basketball. Because the truth is, the Fever aren't just chasing wins, they're chasing respect. And night by night, game by game, player by player, they're earning it. From the veterans who've seen it all, to the rookies who refuse to be intimidated. Every voice in that locker room is now part of something bigger, something bold, something inevitable. This is no longer Caitlin Clark's team alone. This is Indiana's team. And Indiana has the Fever. They've caught fire at the right time, and they're not cooling down anytime soon. They're faster, they're tougher, They're deeper, and they're hungry for more wins, for more respect, for history. So if you're still here, if you felt the electricity in these past 7 games, then say it loud in the comments, I've got the fever. Let the world know this team isn't just coming. They're here. Like this video. Subscribe. Hit that bell, because the next chapter of the saga, it's going to be even wilder. And trust me, you won't want to miss a second of it.